Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. My name's Ryan. This story is about the moment I realized I had to draw a hard line in my relationship. It was when my girlfriend stared me down and demanded I apologize to her male best friend, the guy who'd crashed our carefully planned date night, meant just for us. That's when I knew I was done swallowing my frustrations to keep the peace. I looked her in the eye and said, "You need to choose, him or me." But to understand why that moment broke me, you need the whole story, what led up to it from the very beginning. It's a tale of trust, doubt, and the slow unraveling of something I thought was real. Let me take you back to where it all started, because those early days set the stage for everything that followed. It began during a calm chapter of my life in Portland. I met my girlfriend, Sarah, through a coworker at a low-key gallery opening downtown. We hit it off over a shared love of obscure indie bands and bad coffee. Soon, we were texting daily, spending weekends exploring the city, hiking in Forest Park, grabbing tacos at food carts, or just binge-watching old movies. The connection felt effortless, like we were building something solid. But there was one part of her world that gnawed at me from the start. Her male best friend, Jake. Now, I'm not the possessive type. I believe people can have close friends, no matter their gender. But the way Sarah talked about Jake gave me pause. His name slipped into our conversations constantly. Casual mentions like, "Jake and I tried that new ramen spot," or "Jake thinks I should take that job." At first, I brushed it off, telling myself it was no big deal. But the more I heard about him, the more uneasy I felt. Sarah and Jake had grown up together in Seattle. Same street, same schools. They were tight. Daily texts, frequent hangouts, just the two of them. And Jake, he wasn't shy about staking his claim in her life. One night, after a few months of dating, I decided to address it. We were at my place, sprawled on the couch, when I said, "Hey, I'm not trying to stir anything up, but Jake's presence in your life feels intense. Now, that we're serious, maybe you could set some boundaries." Sarah laughed, her eyes crinkling. "You're overthinking it, Ryan. Jake's like family. He's never seen me that way." She said pulling back from him wasn't an option. They'd been friends forever. I nodded, biting my tongue. I didn't want to seem controlling, so I let it go, convincing myself I just needed to trust her. Looking back, my gut was screaming, but I ignored it, hoping love would iron out the wrinkles. As time went on, Jake's presence grew harder to ignore. It wasn't just occasional texts or catch-ups. He'd message her relentlessly, especially when we were together. If Sarah and I were having a quiet night, her phone would buzz with Jake's name. She'd glance at it, smile, and sometimes step away to reply or take a call that stretched longer than quick. One incident burned itself into my memory. I grabbed her phone to check the weather while we were planning a hike. A notification from Jake popped up, calling her sweetie in a string of flirty texts. I froze, wondering what kind of brother talks like that, especially knowing she's got a boyfriend. Later, I brought it up, keeping my tone calm. "Sarah, why is Jay calling you sweetie? It feels off." She chuckled, waving it away. "That's just Jake being Jake. He's been a mess lately. Bad breakup. I'm his rock." Every time I questioned their closeness, she had an excuse. "Jake's struggling. He needs me. It's not what you think." But to me, it was exactly what I thought. The red flags were waving, and I was starting to feel like a fool for ignoring them. I told her plainly one evening, "I'm not saying cut him off, but I think Jake might be trying to come between us." She rolled her eyes, calling me paranoid. "He's not like that, Ryan. You're reading too much into it." But the question lingered. If Jake just needed a friend, why was he so fixated on my girlfriend? I didn't believe in controlling who she talked to, but the tension was building, a pressure cooker waiting to blow. I chose to play it cool, avoiding a fight, but deep down I knew I was just kicking the can down the road. The unease about Jake lingered, a quiet hum in the back of my mind, but I didn't want it to define my relationship with Sarah. I loved her, the way she'd hum off-key while cooking, how she'd get lost in a book and forget the world. I wanted to believe we could move past this. So, I made a choice. I tried to be civil with Jake. Maybe if I showed him I wasn't threatened, he'd respect the boundaries of our relationship. Or at least, I'd get a clearer read on his intentions. Looking back, I was naive, thinking goodwill could fix what was already broken. I started small. When Sarah mentioned Jake was joining us for drinks with mutual friends, I didn't flinch. I'd nod, make light conversation with him, even ask about his job or his latest hiking obsession. I figured if I treated him like a friend, he'd ease up, maybe stop hovering over Sarah like he owned her time. But my efforts backfired. The more I opened the door, the bolder Jake got. It was like he saw my kindness as weakness, an invitation to push further into our space. His texts to Sarah became more frequent, especially when he knew we were together. Late-night messages would ping her phone, 11 p.m., midnight, sometimes later. If we were out, he'd coincidentally show up at the same bar or cafe, acting surprised to see us. "Oh, didn't know you guys were here," he'd say, sliding into our booth like it was his spot. Sarah would laugh it off, but I saw the pattern. It felt calculated, like he was waiting for any chance to insert himself. What grated most was how he acted when we were all together. Jake had this knack for turning every moment into a nostalgia fest about him and Sarah. "Remember that summer we camped at Lake Crescent?" he'd say, eyes locked on her like I wasn't sitting right there. Or he'd bring up inside jokes that left me on the outside, forcing me to fake a smile while I felt like a third wheel in my own relationship. Sarah didn't seem to notice or didn't care. She'd lean into the memories, her laughter cutting me deeper each time. I tried to stay calm, to avoid coming off as the jealous boyfriend. But inside I was seething. I'd bite my tongue, telling myself I was overreacting, that Sarah would eventually see how Jake's behavior crossed lines. But she didn't. If anything, she leaned into their friendship more, as if my discomfort was a challenge to prove her loyalty to him. One night it hit a new low. Sarah and I were at a small concert, a rare evening where it was just us, swaying to the music, her hand in mine. I thought, this is it, this is us reconnecting. Then, halfway through the set, her phone lit up. "Jake." She stepped away to answer, leaving me standing alone in the crowd. 10 minutes later, she came back, apologetic but distracted. "Jake's having a rough night," she said. "He just needed to vent." I nodded, but something in me snapped. Why was my night with her always at the mercy of his crises? I brought it up later as we walked to my car. "Sarah, I don't get why Jake's always pulling you away, especially when we're together." It started to feel disrespectful. Her face tightened. "He's my best friend, Ryan. I can't just ignore him when he needs me." I pressed. "But what about us? Don't I get to have you to myself sometimes?" She sighed, like I was being unreasonable. "You're making this bigger than it is. He's not trying to ruin anything." But I wasn't so sure. The more I replayed Jake's actions, his convenient appearances, his flirty texts, his subtle digs when we were together, the more I felt like he was playing a long game. I started wondering if he was waiting for me to slip up, to give Sarah a reason to pull away. And the worst part? She didn't seem to see it. Or maybe she did, and it just didn't matter to her. I decided to double down on making things work, to focus on us. Sarah's birthday was coming up, and I saw it as a chance to reclaim our connection. Work had been eating up her time, and our weekends together had dwindled. I missed the early days when it was just us against the world. So, I planned something special, a night that would remind her what we had. I told her I had a surprise for her birthday and made it crystal clear. "This is for you and me, Sarah. Just us." She smiled, her eyes lighting up. "I can't wait," she said. I believed her. With Sarah's birthday approaching, I poured everything into making it a night she'd never forget. A chance to pull us back to the spark we'd had in those early Portland days. I was tired of Jake's shadow hanging over us, and I figured a perfect evening, just the two of us, could drown out the noise. I booked a table at her favorite spot, a cozy Italian restaurant tucked away in the Pearl District, known for its candlelit ambience and killer tiramisu. I even called ahead to secure a corner table by the window, where the city lights would frame us. To me, this wasn't just dinner. It was a statement we're worth fighting for. I told Sarah to keep the evening free, emphasizing, "This is our night, okay? Just you and me." She nodded, her smile soft. "I'm all yours, Ryan." I let myself believe it. The day arrived, and I was buzzing with anticipation. I picked her up at her apartment, and when she stepped out in a deep green dress that caught the streetlights, my heart skipped. She looked like she belonged in that moment, with me. We drove to the restaurant, laughing about some dumb meme she'd sent earlier. At the table, everything clicked, conversation flowed, her eyes crinkled with every joke, and for the first time in weeks, it felt like us again. The waiter brought out our appetizers, bruschetta, she couldn't stop raving about. And I thought, this is it. This is what I've been holding on to. Then, halfway through our meal, I saw someone weaving through the tables toward us. My stomach twisted before my brain caught up. Jake. He was here, in the flesh, striding over with that smug grin I'd grown to hate. I blinked, hoping it was a mistake, that he'd just say hi and leave. But deep down, I knew better. I looked at Sarah, waiting for her to shut it down, to remind him this was our night. Instead, she waved him over, her face lighting up. Hey, grab a chair, she said, pulling one from a nearby table. I froze, my fork hovering over my plate. What's he doing here? I asked, my voice low but sharp. Sarah's smile faltered, but she leaned in, casual as ever. I mentioned we'd be here, and he was nearby. I figured he could join for a bit. A bit? I stared at her, disbelief burning in my chest. This wasn't a casual hangout. This was her birthday dinner, the one I'd planned to the last detail, the one she'd promised would be just us. Jake slid into the chair, already launching into some story about a work drama, his voice drowning out the soft music. I sat there, jaw tight, as he dominated the table. Every time I tried to steer the conversation back to Sarah and me, he'd cut in with a loud laugh or a remember when anecdote that excluded me. Sarah didn't just let it happen. She leaned into it, chuckling at his jabs, some of which felt like thinly veiled shots at me. Ryan's not much for spontaneity, is he? Jake said at one point, smirking. Sarah giggled, and I felt like I'd been slapped. I stayed quiet, nodding along, pretending to eat, but inside I was unraveling. This wasn't just a misstep, it was a betrayal. I'd poured my heart into this night, and she'd handed it over to Jake like it was nothing. The waiter brought out her favorite dessert, and Jake had the nerve to take a spoonful, joking about how he knew her taste better. I want to flip the table, but I held it together, barely. When dinner ended, Jake finally left, tossing a "see ya, man" my way like we were buddies. Sarah and I walked to my car in silence, the air heavy with everything I hadn't said. As we reached the lot, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Why the hell did you invite him? I asked, my voice shaking. She crossed her arms, defensive. He's my friend, Ryan. He wanted to celebrate with me. What's the big deal? The big deal. I snapped. This was supposed to be our night. I told you that. You knew what it meant to me. She rolled her eyes, like I was being dramatic. You're acting like I ruined everything. You were the one sulking all night, making it awkward. That hit me like a punch. I made it awkward. I'd sat through Jake's takeover, swallowing my pride. And now I was the problem? He disrespected our time, Sarah. I said, forcing calm. And you let him. Her eyes narrowed, and then she said the words that shattered something in me. If anything, you should apologize to Jake. You were rude to him. I stared, speechless. Apologize? To the guy who crashed our date and treated me like an intruder? In that moment, I saw it clearly. She wasn't just blind to Jake's games. She was choosing him. Sarah's demand that I apologize to Jake hung in the air like a slap I couldn't unfeel. We stood by my car in the dim Portland streetlight, the buzz of the city fading behind the roar in my head. I'd spent months biting my tongue, ignoring red flags, trying to be the understanding boyfriend. But this was too much. Her words, you should apologize to him, weren't just a misstep, they were a choice, and it wasn't me she was choosing. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling, and said, I'm done pretending this is okay, Sarah. You need to choose, him or me. Her face twisted, eyes flashing with anger. Are you seriously giving me an ultimatum? She snapped. That's controlling, Ryan. You're acting like I can't have friends. I shook my head, my voice steady despite the storm inside. It's not about friends. It's about respect. Jake's been crossing lines, and you've let him. Tonight was proof. I'm tired of feeling like I'm fighting for a place in my own relationship. She opened her mouth to argue, then closed it, her silence louder than any comeback. I waited, hoping for something, anything that showed she understood. But instead, she doubled down. You're blowing this out of proportion. Jake's my best friend. If you can't handle that, maybe you're the problem. That cut deep, but it also clarified everything. This wasn't just about one ruined dinner. It was about months of me shrinking myself to fit around Jake's presence, and Sarah refusing to see how it eroded us. I looked at her, the woman I'd loved, and felt a strange calm settle in. I'm not the problem, I said quietly. And I'm not doing this anymore. Without another word, I got in my car and drove off. I didn't ask if she needed a ride. I didn't glance back to see her standing there. For the first time, I chose myself over the hope of fixing what was clearly broken. The drive home was a blur, my mind replaying every moment. Jake's smirk, Sarah's laughter, the way she dismissed me. By the time I got to my apartment, I was drained but resolute. I was done. The next morning, my phone lit up with a novel-length text from Sarah. I braced for an apology, some sign she'd reflected on what happened. Instead, it was a wall of blame. She called me insecure, jealous, said I'd ruined her birthday by overreacting. She insisted Jake had done nothing wrong, that I was the one who made things awkward. The kicker? She wrote, I'm not cutting Jake out because of your issues. If you can't deal, that's on you. Reading it, I felt a mix of hurt and relief. Hurt, because I'd poured so much into us. Relief, because her words confirmed I'd made the right call. I typed a short reply. I wish you the best, Sarah, but I'm done fighting for someone who doesn't value me. Then I blocked her number. I didn't want to hear more excuses or get dragged into a back and forth. I told mutual friends I wasn't interested in updates about her. I needed a clean break to move forward. It wasn't easy. Nights were long, and doubts crept in. Did I give up too soon? Was I too harsh? But every time I second-guessed myself, I remembered that dinner, her demand for an apology, and the way she'd chosen Jake's feelings over mine. That kept me grounded. Months passed, and the ache dulled. I threw myself into work, picked up climbing again, and started rediscovering who I was without Sarah's shadow. I wasn't fully healed, but I was getting there, finding peace in the quiet. Then, one random Tuesday, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The first line stopped me cold. Hey, Ryan, it's Sarah. My stomach lurched. Part of me wanted to delete it unread, but curiosity won. She wrote, Can we talk? Just for a minute. I don't expect anything. I just need you to hear me out. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Why now? What would she possibly have to say after all this time? Against my better judgment, I opened the door to find out, but not fully. I wasn't ready to hear her voice, so I texted back, Say what you need to hear. I'm not calling. Her response came fast, another long message, and what she revealed was something I hadn't expected. Sarah's unexpected text sat heavy on my phone, a ghost from a past I'd worked hard to leave behind. Her request to talk, after months of silence, stirred a mix of curiosity and dread. I told her to say what she needed via text, unwilling to let her voice pull me back into old wounds. When her response came, a long, sprawling message, I hesitated before reading. Part of me wanted to delete it and keep moving forward. But another part, the part that still wondered why, needed to know. I opened it, and what she wrote hit like a slow-burning revelation, tying together every doubt I'd carried. She started with a half-hearted apology, saying she hadn't meant to hurt me that night at her birthday dinner. But then she got to the real point. After we broke up, she and Jake had tried dating. She didn't dive into details, just said it happened fast and fell apart faster. Apparently, the like-a-brother vibe she'd sworn by vanished once I was out of the picture. During one of their fights, Jake let something slip that turned her world upside down. He admitted, word for word, that he'd always wanted to break us up. Not because he loved her, but because he couldn't stand her being with me. He'd seen our relationship as a challenge, a game he needed to win, even if it meant leaving her alone in the end. Reading that, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt hollow. I'd seen Jake's game from the start, his flirty texts, his coincidental appearances, his jabs at me during that dinner. I'd warned Sarah, and she dismissed me as paranoid, making me question my own instincts. Now, here was the truth, too late to change anything. She wrote that she felt betrayed, that she cut Jake off, but it wasn't about fixing things with me. She just wanted me to know she finally saw what I'd seen all along. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. Part of me wanted to lash out, to say, "I told you so." Another part felt a flicker of pity. She'd lost not just me, but her oldest friend, all because she couldn't see the truth until it crushed her. But mostly I felt done. Her confession didn't erase the nights I'd spent doubting myself or the way she'd chosen Jake's feelings over mine. It just confirmed what I'd known when I walked away. I deserve better. I typed a reply, keeping it short. "Thanks for telling me. I hope you find what you're looking for." Then I added, "Please don't contact me again." I hit send and blocked the number, just like I had before. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I didn't need more apologies or explanations. I'd already closed that door, and her message, while heavy, didn't change that. It was closure, but not the kind that begged for reconciliation. It was the kind that let me let go for good. In the weeks that followed, life felt lighter. I kept climbing, started playing guitar again, and even went on a few dates. I wasn't rushing to replace Sarah, but I was open to what came next. The scars from our breakup faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. I trusted my gut, walked away when I needed to, and came out stronger. Jake's betrayal and Sarah's blindness were their burdens now, not mine. Looking back, I wonder what I'd have done differently. Maybe I could have pushed harder for boundaries early on, or maybe I should have walked away sooner. But I don't regret standing up for myself that night by the car, drawing the line I'd avoided for too long. It taught me what I'm worth and what I won't tolerate, no matter how much I love someone. So, I'll leave you with this. What would you have done in my place? Was I right to cut ties? Or should I have fought harder for Sarah? And if you've ever had a Jake in your life, someone who blurred lines and tested your limits, how did you handle it? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.